Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to this NS9 emergency podcast. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, we have Ryan. Ryan, welcome to the offseason.
Yeah, welcome. I was thinking about this before I came on, DiNardo. So here was my off season. Oh, are you going to do any recording this off season, Ryan? Sure, DiNardo. I'll probably do a Jeopardy episode. Got to interview John Parada, which was awesome. And now I'm here talking about an emergency podcast for Tommy Pham. That's where we're at.
Just as you predicted.
Yep. Great.
Actually, it might be as you predicted. I'm not sure.
I mean,
I say that sarcastically. That could be very truthfully.
I predicted a disaster of an offseason, and here we are.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it. And I'll tell you what, before we really get into meat and potatoes, the biggest betting weekend of the year is finally here, which means more updated odds and props for Super Bowl Sunday. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. We have hundreds of prop bets, MVP odds, and exclusive in-game live betting. BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline offers you everything and more to enhance your game day experience. Visit the website today and make the game day action count a little bit more. BetOnline, the game starts here. So roughly, and I know this is an emergency podcast. Most emergency podcasts happen like right away. Here we are roughly like 9 hours later doing one, but it is what it is. About 9 o'clock this morning, the news breaks. The Pittsburgh Pirates have found their outfielder. They have signed Tommy Pham to a $4,025,000 contract with $250,000 worth of incentives potentially. There it is. We just had Noah Howells on last night, discussed how like the free agent market is basically like washed up. Is it going to happen via trade? Might be likely via trade. Done. It's free agency. It's Tommy Pham. What do you think, Ryan? And chat, what's the chat think? Tell us your thoughts.
I saw when I first joined the show, they were talking Adam Heisdu in the comments, so that's always good. No, I did not pick up Pham at the airport. I think I would just keep driving at that point. We've been waiting for this right fielder. Are they going to sign somebody? Are they going to make a trade? Are they just going to roll with Palacios or Jack Sawinski or, all of the above? And here they come with $4 million to Tommy Pham, who's going to be 37 when the season starts. It's just more of the same, DiNardo, from this front office, from Ben Sherrington. It's just a move that doesn't move the needle, a move that is a head scratcher when you're in. I mean, I hate even saying the rebuild anymore because the rebuild should be over. And they keep just signing a bunch of nothingness that isn't going to move any needle. And it's just, none of it makes sense to me, DiNardo. None of it makes sense. What do you think?
The reason it doesn't make sense is for all the, like what you're just talking about. Like the rebuild should be in the rearview mirror. It's go time. It is go time. You've had 5 years. This is year 6. Paul Skeens is here. Jared Jones is here. And the reason those matter, you don't have as long as you typically do with players with those two because they got full years worth of service time, right? Like that window is now a little more narrow. And on top of that, the money situation, like they're not super too even on that sense. So like they're going to get expensive quicker than a lot of Pirates prospects. And they don't have as long as time here. So like, this is why 2025 like really mattered. Like this is technically last year was your first year with them in the window, but you could understand like I don't want that route, but you can understand with them, there's more of a let's wait and see what we have. But that's done. Like 2025, you saw what you had, and it wasn't too pleasant. That they're a 76 win team. Yeah, like it wasn't terrible. They certainly weren't good. There's a lot of people that underperformed. But again, you're coming into this year, and it's like you can't count on a lot of people because they showed you kind of like what they are so far. It's either they're bad or a lot of uncertainty coming into this year. So like this year was more of like, listen, there's still a lot of payroll flexibility. They're $30 million basically under $100 million payroll. Actually, I guess like $35 million when the offseason began. So it's like there's some cushion there that you can go and get some, like, we're not talking Teoscar Hernandez type, free agents, even though that's something they could and should possibly entertain. But like your plan Bs, we're talking like Michael Conforto, like that's like that was kind of
Right.
like feeling like let's go after these guys. And you totally whiff on those, like the plan Bs in our minds, totally whiffed on, even like the plan Cs. So like getting a Tommy Pham right now isn't the needle pusher. As I mentioned today, they've spent a little over $14 million so far in free agency. I think 14.69 million. You've got Andrew McCutchen, who's returning, Adam Frazier, Tim Meza, Tommy Pham.
This is what we were worried about, right? I mean, instead of going and getting an impact bat, whether through trade or free agency, if you can't do it, you go trade. This is what we were worried about. They were just going to sign a handful of dudes that just don't move the needle, don't go anywhere. I mean, Donardo, this is a move that you would make like in year 2 of a rebuild, not year 6 or when the rebuild's over. And here's the other thing, Donardo, like we talk about, they need to spend money, and it's just instead of spending $20 million on one impact bat, they spend, like you just said, 14 on a handful of guys that really aren't moving the needle. Was there even another team in baseball that was giving Tommy Pham $4 million at this point of his career? Like, so you don't spend any money and then you overpay for a 37-year-old dude who was below average last year.
Right. And by the way, I missed out Caleb Ferguson. That was the 5th guy they signed. And again, I mean, I liked Caleb Ferguson. I was all about bringing Kutch back. Like, it wasn't like all 5 moves were just bad, but that's the entirety of the offseason to this point. And they're sitting at a payroll roughly $5 million right now than they began last year with. So again, to highlight what I talked about last night, and I've been talking more and more through the offseason, of course, especially as we get closer to spring training, it's just like, are you doing everything that you can to set this team up for success? Tommy Pham, I mean, what is he? Listen, a couple years ago, 109 weighted runs created plus. He was a solid hero. This is also a guy at the trade deadline last year that we were actually talking about going after. He had a really solid first half of the season. So it's not as if he is just a complete scrub. And he's been awful. He's been good. For the past 5 years, it's odd as well. If you look at his career, it's above average, below average, above average, below average, above average, below average. So I guess if there's one thing you want to say on this, like the way his patterns is this year, he's due. That's how he's been going. Often good and bad. But again, like 2 years ago, solid offensively. Last year, below average, negative WAR player overall. The bat skills, like he strikes out league average. The walk rate's declining. There's some declining skills there. But again, he's 37 years old. But like on top of that too, his defense is bad. Like the one thing you could say about Verdugo, and take out the right hand, left hand type, just player overall. Like the one thing you talk about Verdugo that we mentioned is the floor is high. Let me rephrase that. The floor is safe. I want to say high, but like Verdugo is potentially going to give you a positive WAR season, like regardless, right? And a part of that also is because he's pretty solid defensively. You have Ono Cruz in center field, who's brand new to the position, which I do think can be productive. I do think he can be an asset as a defender in center field. Ryan Reynolds has shown he has much declining skills in left. So you were hopeful that they would have someone, either if it's a big bat with not so good defense, you can live with that. But if it's someone who's like a middling bat, at least have some defense. And that's what Verdugo presented. The bat's probably not going to be there. Might be about league average. Probably going to be below league average, maybe close to it. But at least he'll give you good defense. So there's some value there that you recoup, right? That's not Tommy Pham. Like it's crazy because like Verdugo to me has a higher floor than what Tommy Pham presents also. So to me, it's a guy. And again, going back to what I said last night, I'd rather them sign a Tommy Pham so he's there and like the Jacks and the Joshuas and whoever else than just not go this route and only rely on those. But again, like this is what we're doing right now with this team, that you see this division and It's open, and you see this team. It's a young roster with some really good talent, and you're supplementing it with Adam Frazier, Tim Mesa, Tommy Pham.
It's signings you make early in a rebuild to just have some guys take some at bats, like until the young guys get ready. That's what that signing is. And in the timing of it, this baseball off seasons is or free agency is very strange anymore. It's so spread out. But like, what was the plan here? Were they trying to go after guys like Randall Grichuk and Jesse Winker, and then they just weren't getting them? They were signing elsewhere. So then they just decided, hey, let's throw $4 million at Pham. Like what? I mean, because what Noah Howe said yesterday on the show about he feels that the Pirates are a tough sell right now, which you are. Look in the mirror because of what you are. Like, you're a tough sell because of how much you don't spend when guys are here, like Rowdy Tellez on a 1-year deal. You cut them before they're ready to get a incentive. So stuff like that's happening. So you have nobody to blame but yourself. You don't give out multi-year deals. So yeah, could I see them struggling to sign some free agents to coming in? Yes, but you also you do have a lot to like sell to people. If you're giving them fair market value, you have Paul Skeens on a roster. Like, how is that not attractive to a guy looking for a 1 or 2 year deal? But it just comes down to, I think they waited. I think they overplayed their hand or just waited too long, or thought that they were going to wait somebody out and get somebody real on the cheap. And then here we are in February scrambling to pick up Tommy Pham at $4 million, which I'm not sure who else was paying him $4 million. So it's kind of reminiscent of the timing of the Chapman deal. It's not the Chapman deal because Chapman was a lot better, but it was just like, hey, let's throw 10 million at a free agent now just so we have somebody. That's what it kind of feels like. But it just, I don't see where it really, like I said, the only positive here to me is come June or July when the team, the dog days of summer, DiNardo, when the team's struggling, Tommy Pham just might fight somebody either on another team or in his own clubhouse. So look forward to that.
Yeah. To go along with that, I will say this. Tommy Pham being on the Pittsburgh Pirates is probably going to make for some interesting content this year. Whether it's talking about him on a post-game show, whether it's some highlight we get the clip up, make it to a short, whatever it is, I guarantee one thing. He might not be a good player, but he will give us content and something to talk about for time to come. And we still talk about Rowdy saying we don't do that here, right? We're still talking about that. Right. I am setting the betting lines right now. Tommy Pham's going to break that. Whatever he does this year is going to trump that situation. We'll be talking about that for decades. He's going to punch someone in the face. It could be Derek Shelton. It could be someone on the team, like you mentioned, right? It could be Kyle Tucker. Who knows? He is going to do quite a few things that are interesting. Well, on or off the field, I guess, but not numbers wise. Right. That will happen. But I guess where I counter with what you're saying, to me, this doesn't really feel as if like, let's just throw money at someone. To me, this is all we got left. Like we narrowed our options to begin with because we weren't even looking at these guys. We weren't even entertaining the plan Bs and plan Cs. And this is it. So, Pham, do you want to play or not? And he said, well, you know what? Now that everyone else signed too, you're it.
Yeah, so he's no stranger of bad losing teams. I mean, the dude was on the White Sox last year. I mean, good Lord. But
but he's been 9 teams in 3 years.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna give that note towards the end. But immaculate grid players. If Pham doesn't have a Lonnie Chisenhall type season, which that wouldn't be the worst thing. If he makes an appearance with the Pirates this year, it'll be his 9th team in 12 years. A 12-year career, DiNardo, in 9 teams. That's absurd. Like, how does that? That's impressive, actually. Yeah. Oh no, I'm sorry. It'll be his 10th team in 12 years.
Okay,
that's impressive. That's impressive. But he's always he's got sound bites that always they were flying around Twitter and stuff today. from just some of the post-game conferences he's done in the past. He slapped one of his teammates over a fantasy football, argument. So, I mean, I kind of relate to him in that aspect, but this is like one of the, from Major
Ryan's
League.
punched me in the face a few times.
Yeah, right. I wanted to. If you're in Florida, it's tough. But this is what's the line from Major League where, hey, wish we had Pham 10 years ago. It's like, well, we didn't, but either way, wish we had him about 8 years ago. Not now when he's 37.
So, like, again, offensively, you look at the expected numbers, they weren't too bad. And again, like he was having a solid first half. He was a target we absolutely were talking about. Let's maybe go get Tommy Pham. What's he going to cost? If you're missing out on Winker, he was like still like the plan B or C at that time frame, but like wasn't the guy you wanted to go after. But he was coming off of a solid 2023, and the first half of 2024 was pretty good. And then he was with 3 teams last year. He was the Cardinals and the Royals after the White Sox. But like you look at the metrics and stuff, and could he squeak out a league average season hitting wise? Probably, maybe. But again, like that's what we're trying to be hopeful for. The signing that just transpired was a guy that you're hopeful, hey, can he be league average? Maybe, but he's still going to be awful defensively. That's not what we really should be entertaining right now. It should be like,
Not
hey,
now.
There's our cleanup guy. We saw the answer. We're feeling good because now the lineup's taking form. And hey, if Jack Swinski does come back, that's just icing on top of the cake. But you're going into the year looking very comfortable and confident, not question mark after question mark after question mark. And again, the guys are just supplementing in. I put this out on Twitter today. Those 5 players we just talked about, the $14.69 million they spent. Last year, they accumulated a total of 0 WAR. 0. The projections right now have a 1.8 WAR for 2025. But also, again, that's what I put on the tweet, account for the fact that projections don't understand role. It's like what they're projecting if they were to play a full season. Like Adam Frazier is not going to get 425 plate appearances. But for him to even get like the 0.5 WAR is him playing that many, So like the 1.8 is also giving people probably more expanded roles than they would. So yeah, like you're spending almost $15 million to get a little bit over 1 WAR off of guys who are coming off of bad seasons. And there's just nothing like what Tommy Pham presents and as his offseason. There's just nothing that you're bringing in that you feel confident in either. I mean, yeah, I do like Caleb Ferguson, but he's coming off one of his worst seasons. Like Tim Mazur, there's some things to be attracted about, but he's coming off of a terrible season.
That's
Adam Frazier,
problem.
man.
That's the problem, Donardo. It's too many rebuild. It's too many rebounds. Like, oh, we need this guy to bounce back. We need him to bounce back from a bad year. Yeah, Pham's had a good year, bad year, good year. He's due for a good year. Like, it's so many rebounds. We need this guy to have one of his better years in the recent last couple years. It's just too many of that. They're not in that part of their rebuild or beyond the rebuild. You have Paul Skeens on the roster. Like you need to be better. You need to make the roster better somehow. And it just overall, just Sherrington has failed this offseason. This offseason has been a complete disaster, in my opinion. And that's the other thing too, Donardo. Like there ain't too many. We've talked about, we still get guys that defend the organization. There's not too many of those guys left at least on Twitter that I'm seeing. There's always a handful, but it's the largely, as you guys talked about in that survey, the fan base is very frustrated as most that I recall in the past, 20, 30 years. And that's even going back to when they were just, I think at that point, when they had the 20 some years of losing seasons in a row, everybody was just, you came to expect it. And that's the Pirates. It is what it is. But it sounds crazy to say when Paul Skeens, a generational pitcher, is on your roster, but I've never been more down on this organization than right now.
And can I add something here? Because I know the main focus is Paul Skeens, the window opening up, right? Paul Skeens is here and that window is small because there's a good reason to believe that he's not going to be here for his entire time, right? And again, that entire time has shrunk because he got that full year of service last year. But let's also like not forget, like it's not even so much of the window opening up. It's the fact that Nike bring this up time and time and time and time and time and time and time again. The worst potential thing that the Pirates have done this regime is not trading Brian Reynolds, because Reynolds also is not getting younger and he signed an extension. And again, like if this isn't the year, it's just one more year of Brian Reynolds being on this team since 2019 that he's not getting any younger, So if it's not this year, 2026, like how many years are you wasting of Brian Reynolds being a Pirate in his prime? And then again, like at the same time, at this the bookends, right? There's Brian Reynolds and his tenure and how long he's still going to be a productive player. And then there's also Paul Skeens entering it. So the more and more that you just putz around and really not put yourself in the position to succeed and say, we're being serious. We are going to go for it. No longer questioning. We are going to go for the playoffs and here's our work, and then you talk about the frustration. Like that is the frustration because a lot of fans expected it this year because you keep hearing the lip service. I put out that video time and time again here and there from Ben Cherington in 20 and 21 being asked by Mad Dog, who no longer has a show. That's again, like that's how long we're going. Mad Dog doesn't even have a show anymore. Ask me, Ben Cherington, if you were to tell the fans when's the earliest possible time frame you're going to, compete in the playoffs, what would you tell them? And he says, basically, we're going to work our butts off to make that as quickly as possible. We're going to surprise people to be quicker than you think. What's 2025 right now? And your proof to that answer was after a 76-win team, we're adding Adam Frazier, Tommy Pham, Tim Meza, Caleb Ferguson, and just bringing back Kutch. That's why fans are frustrated because you're not showing that, and again, when this whole new regime came in, the whole talk and lip service was, now listen, guys, when the time's right, we will spend the money.
The resources
you understand, like
there.
we're not right. We're not going to be the Dodgers. I get that. You get that. Everyone watching the show gets that. We don't care about that. We're asking like, hey, can you actually invest into this team? Maybe 100 million. So we're not seeing a Tommy Pham. Maybe it's a Santander, which again, you plug it into Santander and it's like, oh, okay, that's an upgrade. And if Jack Swinsky does come around, oh, well, that's icing on the cake. We can figure that problem out if there's too many good players. But the problem is you're supplementing this team with guys that haven't been good players and what ifs. And that's the internal of this problem of this team right now is it's filled with what ifs.
You mentioned, and you made a good point about last year's deadline, and Pham was one of the names that was tossed around. They should have just went and got him at the deadline. Maybe we wouldn't have had to go through the whole Brian De La Cruz, fiasco. So you could have just got Pham and then keep him around. I don't know, but yeah, it's like
Winker or whomever.
Yeah, but again, like we don't know what goes on in closed doors and what their discussions were with other teams. But it's weird because we usually do hear like, hey, the Pirates were in on that guy. The Pirates made an offer and he just didn't. We haven't really heard that this offseason, which, it's the running joke. It's like, oh, they were in on him. But we really haven't heard that from too many media sources. There hasn't been anything coming out about they were really targeting this guy or that guy. It just seems like, once again, Ben Cherington waited too long and then scrambled a bit and was like, well, I guess we'll get Tommy Pham. Hey, maybe he made an offer to Jesse Winker and it was turned down. But good Lord, maybe you should give out a 2-year deal from time to time. And, this team, we talked about opt-outs in our group chat. Like this organization seems to be allergic to opt-outs, which I don't understand that, Donardo, because you want the guy to opt out, because if he's opting out, he had a really good year. He wants to go hit free agency and get paid again. So you had a really good year with him. And if you opt out, you don't have to pay him the money that you're worried about in the second and third year. So why are we so against opt-outs? But I digress. It's just, man, it's just an off season it's just been an off season of nothingness.
No, I agree. And the thing about, you're talking about how, you're hearing stuff. I know this has been something that's been asked to us by a few people, and I'll bring it on the pod, as some have mentioned. Like, are they just not willing to give multiple year deals or whatnot? And again, like Imanaga, it was put out there, when he signed that, like, hey, the Pirates actually were giving like the most guaranteed money to him. Like it wasn't like we just missed out. It was actually they had a pretty competitive offer there. He did choose the Cubs over the Pirates. For what reasons? We can let that to be unknown. Again, there's multiple reasons why people sign places. It's not all about money. Again, but again, the reason I'm saying this is there has been somewhat proof, I guess, if you want to believe it, right? But there has been proof that Cherington and the Pirates have given out multi-year offers. So it's not as if they're just completely opposed to it, but it's not like we hear that often. And the guys that they are targeting are really guys that aren't in line to get multi-year deals. But what's different about this year too is that we're going to, like, when you heard about Imanaga, like you heard like, hey, there was an offer. It was better. You're not hearing much this year, but the things that you're hearing are only they talked. Grichuk, we just know that they talked. There wasn't that the Pirates offered a deal and he decided to go to Arizona, or Pirates deal wasn't as good. It was just they talked. Verdugo, they talked. That was it. So I don't know, whereas years past, it was like, well, hey, we were second. We missed out. For Blue Jays fans, there's a lot of correlation there. Pirates fans are very well known to be like, oh, we just missed out. Oh, we came in second, right? There's not even that. There's only they talked.
Right. And that's the thing. Like there's usually we usually hear more about when, like you said, the Pirates are really in on somebody, or they just finished, they finished second in that running. You hear more about that typically. And we're just not really hearing that besides they talked this offseason. So yeah, it's just I don't know. I don't know where this team once again is just going to rely on, the internal development and everybody just hitting their 98th percentile season and hoping for the best. And that's where we're at. And say what you will about Pham on the field. I mean, this is like another one of those, like, not that I don't want to say Pham's a bad dude. It's just, it's a weird.
He's a bad dude, depending on how you define bad.
Well,
you're using the term bad.
Right.
He's a bad dude.
It's just a weird, like, just like you bring this guy in, it's like, okay, is he gonna roll with the younger guys on the team? It's just, I don't know. Obviously, he doesn't care about losing because he was on the White Sox last year and was, getting ready to fight people. So I don't know. It's just a bizarre signing. The timing of it to me is bizarre. Like at this point, Donardo, would you rather just roll with Palacios and Jack Sawinski and hope, or Cook and York, hope somebody out of those four like take the job or do something? Or
but again, this goes to what I said last night. This isn't me advocating like, yes, Tommy Pham is a good signing. Yay. I would rather have Tommy Pham also included. It just gives you more options. It hedges your bets. Like I would rather it be Tommy Pham, Palacios, Sawinski, York, Cook. There's 5 guys now that you have options to say like, hey, maybe someone can be decent instead of just 4. So again, like that's where I come with and understand what I mean when I say that. I would rather them have Pham than not, because like at least they have 5 options of who the hell knows, opposed to 4 options of who the hell knows. That's it. That's again, like back to my Verdugo thing. I'd rather have Verdugo than not have Verdugo, because at least Verdugo's here and he can add to the mix and say, maybe there's more options I'm going to work out opposed to not. But that's it. It's like, I'm not looking at Pham to say, okay, that's good. He's the answer. He's just another question mark. But hey, the odds are in your favor if you have 5 guys, one can figure it out, opposed to you have 4 guys, one to figuring it out.
Which goes back to my whole thing before the season was over last year. I go get an impact player, not this, like you said, 4 or 5 guys that are just gonna, maybe one of them hits. We have options. Why not?
Right.
Right. But I saw people on Twitter, like Tyler was one. He said, he'd rather have Jack Sawinski at this point than Pham. Again,
and to answer that, like I would rather have Jack than Pham too. If I'm gonna put my money on someone, like Jack Sawinski clearly has the higher ceiling than Tommy Pham. If I have to choose to roll with one, then I'll roll with Jack Sawinski over Pham. The thing is, I don't have to choose. Pham's now part of it. So I can see which option does, and then I can make my choice. So again, that's why I come up with my decision making here. I'd rather Pham be on the team than not, because it just adds one more player. But if I had to choose only one and roll without an opening day, and that's it, I'm going to roll Jack Sawinski because he presents the highest ceiling.
Yeah, I'm with Rob here. If you have 5 outfielders, 5 right fielders, you really have none. It's like the 2 quarterback system in college football, right. So
that's why I only roll with one when I won my national championship last week.
God, I can't
Which
believe I
Brian's
was even a
also in
part of
that
that.
league.
I can't believe I was a part of it. But like Noah said last night, that's why you just go out and sign a better player. Like you just you trade or you acquire a good player instead of having to worry about maybe Sawinski or these guys. I can't even think of who we got on these right fielders. It's so many. But instead of relying on them, you just go acquire a good player. And then you don't have to give $4 million to Pham and all this stuff. So I don't know.
Just to bring it back to
They're
Pham
still
as we
under
kind of
next
wrap it
year's.
up here.
Yeah, they're still under last year's opening day payroll by like $5 million.
Yeah, right. You would assume it's going to increase, and it actually has decreased at this point in time. Now,
So maybe we can go get a sixth. Maybe we can go get a sixth right fielder.
Maybe. Then, hey, more options.
Bring Verdugo.
Spring's going to be lit. They're going to have an actual battle, and Pham's going to be knocking players out so he can win the right field job. But
I don't know if we have enough numbers out there for them all.
But like again, just back to Pham. There's just it's very limited. He has been a decent hitter in the past. It's been up and down. People have putting this out there too, and I want to also acknowledge this, which is also kind of funny and ironic. We are all willing and wanting to move on from Connor Joe. Connor Joe, fine player for the role that he should be in, right?
Good little ball player.
Good little ball player. Yes, like Jim's good little ball player. Connor Joe is in a smaller role. Like he serves his purpose. If you don't overexpose him, you play him in the right matchups. He's a good little ball player. But the problem is the Pirates have been overexposing him, having to make him play every day almost, and that's why he looks not so great, right? But regardless, like Connor Joe, that's no longer the standard, right? That's why we're like, you know what? A little bit over $3 million in ARB and such. Let's move on from Connor Joe. You need to upgrade. You need to get better. There's already Connor Joes. Tommy Pham has essentially been Connor Joe for the past 2 years, and he's costing more money to do so. When we talk about let's move on from Connor Joe for like the $3.5 million, whatever ARB might present for him, Tommy Pham's $4 million, and he's essentially been Connor Joe, but maybe with worse defense, to be honest. So again, adding the frustration, you kind of already had a Tommy Pham on this team, who also can play first base. You spent more money to bring him back in the form of Tommy Pham. So again, that's just kind of where I'm at. That's why so much is puzzling and baffling, and you have fans frustrated. The point was to move on from Connor Joe and Brian De La Cruz, because together those ARB numbers presented about $6 to $7 million. Take that $6 to $7 million, maybe get yourself a $7 million outfielder, and find a true improvement, a true upgrade.
Right.
This is a guy that you can believe in. You can put him in the middle of the lineup and say, I feel better about 2025's team. This lineup, third worst in baseball last year. I'm not expecting to be a top 10. The pitching's going to carry this team, but at least the offense can supplement the team. It's not going to be a total weakness. It's not going to lose all these games. And what you did was you moved on from Brian De La Cruz. You moved on from Connor Joe, and you brought Connor Joe back at a higher rate.
Yeah. It's head scratching. It doesn't make sense. If you went into this offseason too with the thought we can spend 15 to 20 million, the guys that you use the money on to use it, to spend that 15 million, like you couldn't figure out a better way to allocate those resources to put that money in a better spot that really truly helps this team.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and at this point, you could talk about roster construction and all that. Signing Adam Frazier was another one. Like, are we just looking to bring him with Kutch? And hey, this Frazier, Kutch, and Pham would have been a nice outfield back in 2017. But yeah, like, are we just trying to sell tickets with Frazier and then coming back? Oh, look at those two. Look at this. Yeah, and somebody said in there about Pham's offensive numbers being better than Joe. We're not talking about just offensively. Like overall, like you mentioned, like there's the war right there. Like with defense, like Pham is so.
You talk about offensively. These are the past 2 years. Connor Joe, 726 OPS, 99 OPS plus. Tommy Pham, 723 OPS, 101 OPS plus.
It's the Spider-Man
meme. 0.003 difference on OPS. they're both a 1.3 WAR player in 2 years. That they might have done things like a little bit differently. 20 home runs for Connor Joe, 25 for Tommy Pham. That Connor Joe gets on base a little bit more, where Tommy Pham hits for a little bit better average. But essentially, they're about a 400 slugging, a 726 OPS, 1.3 WAR. Like they're very similar players.
Yeah. It's puzzling, man. It is puzzling. And at this point, is Henry Davis and Andy Rodriguez in AAA to start the year?
I don't know.
I mean,
they're clearly options,
right? It's going to be
but the
an interesting
problem
spring
is
training, but it's just going to be
they're going to
interesting
sit
and
there
depressing
because of Tommy Pham and not because of Anthony Santander. Like that's the difference.
Yep. Henry Davis right here in the chat says the Pirates are the kings of signing guys that say, wow, he would have been a great signing 5 years ago. And that's what they're saying. It's just too many rebounds. Like they sign these guys, and it's like Rowdy Tellez last year. Well, he could get back to that 2022, 30 home run power. Sure. Or he could be the worst hitter in baseball for the first 3 months of the year. That's good. So yeah, it's just, hey, the Pirates aren't going to spend. They're going to go. I think the problem is here. We know the problem with the ownership. They're not going to spend. And then I think the other problem is we have a bad GM. So I get Ben's dealing with limited resources, but what he's done with those limited resources aren't good. And this is year 6 you're rolling into, and you're projected for 76. Your over under in Vegas is 76.5 wins,
which is what you were last year,
right?
And the year before.
Not good enough. Yep. Yeah.
So again, yes, this is just one of those deals that adds to the frustration. Said it last night. I'll say it again. It's what I've been saying time and time again. I said on Starbucks, and Noah Howe's going to write an article basically saying the same thing. They got to prove it. They got to prove that what they're doing is correct. So they decided to roll with Tommy Pham here. Hey, you know what? You have 162 games coming up to tell us that we were wrong. I'm not giving you much faith because your actions and your past has shown that we're probably correct. But here's your opportunity to prove us wrong. And again, the difference is if you show us once again that, hey, you're a 76-win team and you're not above 500, you're not making the playoffs, then sorry, you were wrong. Tired of excuses, and it comes back to this offseason because you started out with $82.5 million with Tommy Pham, Adam Frazier, Meza, Ferguson, and Kutch as the offseason. So maybe next year, if there is a next year for you guys, do the things you need to do to make sure that you're not a 76-win team, that you take those steps forward and you invest the way that you should and you're capable of. Not asking for the Dodgers, but there should be some level of actual investment into your product to make it a winner. So do the right things. So again, here's your opportunity. Prove us wrong.
Yeah, and if you are a tough sell right now for free agents coming in and nobody wants to sign with you, then go get creative and make the tough trade. Trade some of the arms.
This is the bed that you made that you have to lay in. Right. So again, for all the people that want to give excuses of why this free agent's not signed, that one's not free. End of the day, the results are they're not signing. This is a results-oriented business, not an excuse-oriented, not a we feel bad for you, we feel sorry for you. It's results-oriented. Don't want to hear the excuses of why. Do the things you need to do to make the necessary changes to then get the results that you're trying to achieve. Anyways, we have spent
way too much time.
39 minutes on Tommy Pham. Is he
man.
going to see 39 minutes on the field this year? To be determined. Well, we out of here, Ryan?
I think so. This has been fantastic. I'm glad this is my I don't know, my one time with you this offseason at least.
Appreciate Penn for the super. Appreciate Steel City DW for the membership for 5 months. And yes, I know there's some questions in the comments before the show started because Ryan was late. If you do want the emojis, right, you can become a member, just 99 cents on YouTube. That gets you all the emojis. More will be coming. As we announced, we're teaming back up with Manny Brothers. So for the post-game shows, we'll be giving away 2 free sandwiches at least when the Pirates win. So if Bucks win, you win. And all our patrons also, we appreciate you guys. You can become a patron, see all those reasons to join also. But let's get out of here, Ryan.
Yeah,
we're done.
And I thought it was the 5:45-ish. I was on the ish. I was just letting
it was ish. We're usually closer to the 45 than the ish when we do that. But
we were in the H of the ish.
The H. Rob, appreciate the 5 gifted memberships.
Rob. Appreciate that.
So yeah, let's get out of here. We'll be back again. No point tomorrow. We'll be back again for Starbucks on Monday. We'll see you guys then. Hopefully, if there is an emergency podcast, it's one that we enjoy. Otherwise, hopefully there's no more emergency podcast because I don't want to talk about this again. So we'll see you all later. Bye-bye.
Peace.
All right, that wraps up this episode of North Shore 9. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whether you're listening on the podcast or catching us on YouTube, if you enjoyed the show, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps us grow. And if you're listening on the podcast, a quick review goes a long way in helping others find the show. Plus, be sure to tell a friend about us. There's always room for more here in the NS9 community. And for those looking to support us a little more, consider joining our Patreon, become an MVP member, and get exclusive perks while helping us continue to bring you more of the Pirates content you love. Thanks again for all your support, and let's go Bucks.